We are beginning our Bible reading this week in Acts chapter 24. We find Paul is going to stand before the governor, Felix. History tells us that Felix was a pretty bad man, and he committed, obviously, numerous crimes. And yet Paul's going to stand before him, and later on in the chapter, he's going to have an opportunity to talk to him along with his wife. As you think about Acts chapter 24, one of the things that really stood out to me just reading this was how Paul was being described. In Acts chapter 24, Paul was being described, they said in verse number 5, "For we have found this man a real pest and a fellow who stirs up dissension among all the Jews throughout the world, and a ringleader of the sect of the Nazarenes." They found this man to be a real pest. This idea that he was deadly or infectious. And that was the impact that he was having around the world. At least that's what they were saying in a negative way. Now we know the story with respect to the Apostle Paul, that he was preaching and proclaiming Jesus Christ crucified and raised from the dead. That just stood out to me though, because when we do the work of God, when we do the will of God, people are going to say things about us, and people are going to describe us in a manner that is often not true, as they were doing here with Paul. And Paul would make his defense. In fact, in verse number 10, he said, knowing that verse number 10 it says, when the governor had nodded for him to speak, Paul responded, knowing that for many years you have been a judge to this nation, I cheerfully make my defense. And so Paul says, I have nothing to hide. And their charges against me they're all false. But he did admit to this. He said in verse 14, but this I admit to you, that according to the way, Paul was a part of the way. Paul preached the way of Jesus being the way, the truth, and the life. He said that according to the way which they call a sect, I do serve the God of our fathers, believing everything that is in accordance with the law and that is written in the prophets, having a hope in God, which these men cherish themselves, that there shall certainly be a resurrection of both the righteous and the wicked. So Paul was not ashamed of what he believed, with who he believed, or in whom he believed. Let's make sure that that's our mentality as well. Doesn't matter what people may say about us. We strive to do the right thing. We are followers of the way. We are part of the way. We follow the way, Jesus the Christ. Take care, and God bless.